Can you hold that moment one more time? Just sort of like play with that branch a little bit as I'm walking towards you. Okay.
You definitely. Say, in the instance of the workshop that I've been doing in Jamestown, one of the things that was interesting to me is that I had decided that I was going to kind of use this image and this idea and that idea. By the time I walked into the room, when I walked into the room, I could feel already that some of the pre-planning that I had done was non-existent.
The tube was.
You couldn't be more wild than this.
No.
It's wonderful. All this cut wood here.
Uh-huh.
Okay. When I begin a workshop, of course I begin it many, many, many days before the workshop actually begins. My own mind begins to take certain things that I would like to see happen and begin to play with those ideas and see where they take me. Uh, because particularly as I've worked with this over the years, what I like to do is I like to work as simply as possible. To use the simplest amount of materials, to come in almost scot-free of things that I either have to show or use, and then sort of weave a kind of an environment around the ideas that we're working with. As these ideas in my own thoughts begin to gel, I discard certain ideas, I accept certain ideas, I think of maybe should we do it with the images of a tree or images of a bird, or do I take in a feather, or do I take in a piece of a leaf, the things that are very simple, but what do I do? Sometimes I write down just a few phrases of ideas or phrases of feelings that I have of the way I'd like this particular workshop to go. And in this gestation period, what often happens is that where I actually began my thoughts, I don't end up that way. Say, in the instance of the workshop that I've been doing in Jamestown, one of the things that was interesting to me is that I had decided that I was going to kind of use this image and this idea and that idea. By the time I walked into the room, when I walked into the room, I could feel already that some of the pre-planning that I had done was non-existent. I began to sense the energies of the children, began to sense the kind of imaginative flow of ideas that were kind of out there with the child or with the groups of children. And I knew immediately, because I work a lot with improvisation and I work a lot with the possibility of things happening that I didn't plan for. The first child that says something is my clue, often to where I go, because I can get a sense by the words the child uses or by the images the child transmits in terms of answering a question, that will lead me, in terms of my thoughts, into the question that I'd like to pose. Within the workshop itself, as the workshop continues, again, what is my lead, the process that leads me, is what the children are saying to me and how they respond to what it is I'm saying. And it can just be a seed of an idea, a kernel of a thought that leads me into something that I may have been thinking about ages ago. So overall, the process again is there's definitely a lot of inner planning that goes on, and then there's a lot of inner letting go. I think one of the characteristics of human consciousness is its ability to be conscious of itself inside ourselves, and to be conscious of the fact that we can also go outside of ourselves. We have, I mean, again, going back to our humanness in this regard, we have this extraordinary capacity to know that something is happening within us, and also by taking the inside of our imaginative ability to imagine what's happening inside a snowflake or a snowball or a tree or a leaf or whatever. Or something even more, perhaps more accessible in terms of thinking what goes inside of a cat or a dog or a butterfly or a bird. I think there's a part of our childhood, a very deep and a very, very extraordinary part of childhood that never leaves us. And I think what it is probably the deepest experiences of being alive that stay with us. Now, on one level, somebody can say, well, this is nonsense, Snowflakes don't feel, or snowballs don't feel, and a tree doesn't feel. Well, in the child's mind, all of these things at one point in time did feel. So, yes, it all goes back to, I think, a very primary experience of where we came from, and then a little bit further than that, not only where we came from, but the sense of that our birth and our age and our oldness within time is part of time's history. There are millions of moments through a day, even if they're small amounts of time, when certain feelings, certain ways of perceiving come to the surface that seem at that moment to be almost, you ask the question, where did they come from? What is this about? I suspect it's the human psyche, if you want to call it, the human mind, the human body, triggering at certain times a feeling that it too needs to be paid attention to. Going to adulthood, if we find those moments and they become, in turn, thoughts, we can probably be assured that by the fact that we found them through the imagination itself. So the imagination is never idle. That's the other part that I think we have to become aware of. My feeling is that the ability to make an image, which is really our ability to see what it is we're seeing, what it is we're feeling, what it is that we know, all of that is all part of image making, is that is one of the elements of the life of the imagination. I think the way I'm defining imagination, certainly for myself, is that it's an inner life, an inner process, an inner means of establishing a way of actually being what it is that we are.